Hello, and welcome to the fourth part of our Scripture in the Year series, hosted by Saints Peter and Paul Albanian Orthodox Church, the Albanian Archdiocese of the OCA. Now Abram went up from Egypt to the south, and he and his wife and all they had, and Lot with them. Abram was very rich in cattle, silver, and gold, so he went on his journey from the south as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent was at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the altar he made there at the beginning. There Abram called on the name of the Lord. Lot also, who went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. But the land was not able to support them, so they might dwell together, for their possessions were so great they could not dwell together. So strife arose between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and those of Lot. Now the Canaanites and the Perizzites dwelt in the land at that time. So Abram said to Lot, "Let there be no strife between you and me, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brethren. Is not the whole land before you? Separate from me. If you take the left, then I will go to the right, or if you take the right, then I will go to the left." Thus Lot lifted his eyes and saw all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of God, like the land of Egypt as you go toward Zoar. Then Lot chose all the plain of Jordan for himself and journeyed east. So they separated from each other. Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, but Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain and pitched his tent even as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked and sinful before God. Then God said to Abram, after Lot separated from him, "Lift your eyes now and look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward. For all the land you see I give to you and your seed forever, and I will make your seed as the dust of the earth, that if a man could number the dust of the earth, then your seed also could be numbered. Arise, walk in the land through its length and its breadth, for I will give it to you." Then Abram moved his tent and went and dwelt by the oak of Mamre in Hebron, and built an altar there to the Lord. Now it came to pass in the reign of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, that they made war with Bera, king of Sodom, Birsha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemember, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar. All these joined together in the valley of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th they rebelled. Now in the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings with him came and cut down the giants in Ashtaroth, Karnaim, and strong nations with them, the Zuzim in Ham, the Emim in Sheva Kiriathaim, and the Horites in the mountains of Seir, as far as the El Paran, which is by the wilderness. Then they turned back and came to En Mishpat, that is Kadesh, and cut down all the princes of the Amalekites and also the Amorites who dwelt in Hazazon Tamar. Now the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar, went out and joined together in battle in the valley of Siddim against Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of nations, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of asphalt pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell in there, but those left fled to the mountains. Then they took all the cavalry of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their provisions and went their way. They also took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. Then one who escaped came and told Abram the Hebrew, who at that time dwelt by the oak of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner, and they were allies with Abram. Now when Abram heard his brother Lot was taken captive, he armed his 318 trained servants, born in his own house, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. So he divided his forces against them by night. And he and his servants attacked and pursued them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. So he brought back all the cavalry of Sodom, and also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, as well as the women and people. Then the king of Sodom went out to meet him at the valley of Sheva, that is, the king's valley, after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and the kings with him. Now Melchizedek, the king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was the priest of God Most High. He blessed Abram and said, Blessed be Abram of God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hands. Then Abram gave him a tithe of all. Now the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the people and keep the cavalry for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand to God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, that I will take nothing of yours, from a thread to a sandal strap, lest you should say, I made Abram rich, except only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them take their portion. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, and will be your exceedingly great reward. But Abram said, Lord, what will you give me, seeing I go childless, and the heir of my house is Eleazar of Damascus, the son of Masech, my domestic maidservant? Then Abram said, Look, you have given me no offspring. Indeed, my household servant is my heir. And immediately the voice of the Lord came to him, saying, This one shall not be your heir, but the one who will come from your own body shall be your heir. And he brought him outside and said to him, Look now toward heaven, and count the stars if you are able to number them. And he said to them, So shall your seed be. And Abram believed God, and he accounted it to him for righteousness. Then he said to him, I am the God who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to inherit it. And he said, Master and Lord, how will I know I will inherit it? So he said to him, Bring me a 3-year-old heifer, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. So he brought all these to him, and cut them in half down the middle, and placed each piece opposite the other. But he did not cut the birds in two. And when the vultures came down on the carcasses, Abram drove them away. Now around sunset a trance fell upon Abram, and behold, horror and great darkness fell upon him. Then he said to Abram, Know for certain that your seed will be strangers in a land not their own, and will serve them, and they will afflict and humble them 400 years. Also, the nation they serve I will judge, and afterward they shall come out with great possessions. But as for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace, buried in a good old age. Then, in the 4th generation, they shall return here, for the sin of the Amorites is not yet filled up. And it came to pass, when the sun went down, that there was a flame, and behold, there appeared a smoking oven and lamps of fire that passed between those divided pieces. On the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, I will give this land to your seed from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Uaites, the Gigashites, and the Jebusites. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bore him no children, but she had an Egyptian maidservant whose name was Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, See now, the Lord has restrained me from bearing children. Go in to my maid, perhaps I shall obtain children by her. Thus Abram obeyed the voice of Sarai. Then Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife, after Abram dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. So he went in to Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw she had conceived, her mistress became despised in her eyes. Then Sarai said to Abram, My wrong be upon you. I gave my maid into your embrace, and when she saw she had conceived, I became despised in her eyes. May God judge between you and me. Thus Abraham said to Sarai, Indeed, your maid is in your hand. Do with her as you please." So when Sarai dealt harshly with her, she fled from her presence. Now the angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. Then he said, "Hagar, Sarai's maid, where have you come from, and where are you going?" She replied, "I am fleeing from the presence of my mistress Sarai." The angel of the Lord then said to her, "Return to your mistress and humble yourself under her hand." Again the angel of the Lord said to her, "I will surely multiply your seed exceedingly, that it may not be counted because of its multitude." Once again the angel of the Lord said to her, "Behold, you are with child, and you shall bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael, for the Lord has taken notice of your humiliation. He shall be a rustic man, and his hand shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him. He shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren." Then Hagar called the name of the Lord who spoke to her, "You are the God who sees me." For she said, "I have seen the one who appeared to me face to face." Therefore she called the well of him I saw before me. Observe, it is between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram named his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. Now Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram.